In this video, I'm going to talk to you about simplifying fractions. When you simplify a fraction, you reduce it to its simplest form. In this example, I've got 1 whole, and I've divided that 1 whole into sixths. Underneath, you can see that there are 2 fractions of that whole. We've got half, and we've got 3/6. As you know, half and 3/6 are the same, but one is simpler than the other. Which one do you think that might be? Hopefully you've thought that 1/2 is simpler than 3/6, and that's true. And the reason it's true is because when you imagine this fraction, half is easier to see because there are less parts involved. When you simplify a fraction, you're trying to make it its largest possible part, which means that actually the 2 numbers involved have to be the smallest that they can be. Simplifying fractions is most useful when you've got a really big fraction that's really difficult to picture or understand. An example of this could be 27 over 81. It's quite impossible to really understand what 27 out of 81 parts might look like, which is why you simplify it down to its smallest possible point. In order to do this, you use division to help you. And to help you with the division, your multiplication knowledge will be really useful. So what I would do if I was you is find a multiplication grid to help you do this. The first thing you need to do is think about which times table these 2 numbers are inside. And then also think of what the highest times table might be. I know that both 27 and 81 are in the 9 times table. So I'm going to divide them both by 9. I know I can divide them by 9 because by being in the 9 times table, it means that that will work with no remainders. When I divide 27 by 9, I get 3. And when I divide 81 by 9, I get 9. That's 3/9. And whilst that's easier to understand a little bit more than our first number, it's actually not the smallest amount that we could make it. Because I still know that I could make 9 a lot smaller, and I can make 3 a lot smaller. So which times table are both of these numbers in? You find both of these numbers in the 3 times table, which means that I can divide by 3 with no remainders. Three divided by 3 is 1, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. I now have our first fraction reduced down to its simplest form by dividing it by 9 and then dividing it by 3. Let's take a look at another example. In this example, I'm going to show you 42/56. And I need to think about which times tables both of those numbers are inside to help me with my division. See if you can have a little think first. I think that both of those numbers are in the 7 times table, so I'm going to divide them by 7. 42 divided by 7 is 6, and 56 divided by 7 is 8. I don't think that this fraction is yet at its simplest form, so I'm going to keep going. Is there a times table that can include both 6 and 8 as factors? The 2 times table has both of them inside. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. I have now reduced 42/56 to its simplest form of 3/4. In this final example, we're going to work with 48/80. Which times tables do you think these numbers fit inside? I'm going to choose the 8 times table. 48 divided by 8 is 6, and 80 divided by 8 is 10. What times table could we use next? Have a think about which times tables 6 and 10 are inside. Remember, it needs to be the same one. I'm going to go with the 2 times table. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 48/80 reduced to its simplest form is 3/5. So when simplifying fractions, remember these 2 key things. First of all, decide which times table both numbers are factors of. It needs to be the same times table that you divide by. Then keep dividing by the numbers until you can divide no further. Eventually, you'll reach the most simplest form of that fraction.